Hi, welcome to the Scale House podcast. I'm your host, Clay Bowman from TAC Insight, and this podcast is about technology, and we're discussing technology in the industry. So thanks for joining us. Today, my guest is Chris Wurtz of Digital Fleet. Chris has an interesting background. He hails from McNeilus Corporation, where he literally spent a lot of his career designing and building trucks. And I've gotten to know Chris over the years, and he's an amazing individual, great guy. And I'm just excited to have him on the podcast today. Chris, welcome to the show.
Clay, thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice introduction as well.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's very due. And, you know, Chris, I've learned a lot from you over the years, actually. So even in the short amount of time that we've been able to spend together, it's been great. So I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.
Gotcha.
So tell us about yourself. You know, I've given a little bit of introduction, but how about sharing with us a little bit about yourself, your family real quick, and then Digital Fleet. It'd be great to hear about you guys.
Sure, that would be great. Yeah, so Chris Wurtz. I've been in the industry now going on about 10 years. I'm an electrical engineer by degree, so I actually started my career designing motorcycle electronics for Polaris, which was their Victory brand, right out of college. So awesome job being able to test motorcycles, design motorcycle equipment.
Very cool.
And then I eventually got a job at McNeilus. That's what kind of started me in the ready mix field. I had a variety of roles there. I was in engineering, designing controls, and then went into supply chain and product management. And that's really where I got to know the industry well. So spent a little time at Terex as well, and then ended up at Digital Fleet. So I worked with Digital Fleet in my past, and honestly, just an awesome company with a great vision. And I really like the tech and what we're doing. So just really excited to be part of the team. But yeah, I've got 2 little kids, and one's in first grade, and the one will be going to kindergarten next year, not this year. And I've got my wife as well. So
you're making me feel
family.
old.
You know, can't say enough positive things about them. And yeah, so thanks for having me, Clay. Really appreciate being here.
Yeah, Chris, you bet. And so, you know, I've been to the Digital Fleet corporate office there in downtown Chicago, and, you know, it feels hip. It feels like a tech company, right? When you walk in the door. I know you guys haven't been spending too much time there recently, but it's such an interesting group of people. So we're very excited to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about, you know, the technology. You know, one of the things that I would be interested in talking to you about is, you know, I've been in the telematics business. I've worked for a couple of major telematics providers, 3 to be exact. And, you know, I've kind of got a flavor of what's going on in the industry. I know that you guys really specialize and focus in ready mix, but there's a movement towards the automation of aggregate. And I think as we see some of these technologies evolve in the aggregate space, especially the importance of statusing, the importance of understanding the movement of the truck through the delivery cycle, maybe even the granular movements of these trucks through the operation to get more insight from the analytical side of throughput at the quarry. We can always capture that information when they're coming in, perhaps if they have a check-in kiosk or something like that, but actually granularly moving those trucks through the process of inbound, outbound. And I think it becomes more prevalent and more, the ability to do that becomes more prevalent because of these mobile technologies that we now have. GPS is changing. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. We did cut our teeth in ready mix, right? But within most ready mix companies, they've got a series of aggregate trucks or cement tankers, or basically, you know, material feeding into the ready mix operation. And so it tends to seem like ready mix is a little bit more complicated in some ways as far as statusing goes. But we do have lots of customers really trying to fine tune their aggregate operations, right? So how long they're in the quarry, what status they're in. And that's really an area of focus for us as well beyond ready mix. But The interesting thing I think about Digital Fleet, which at least makes us very unique, is we've got a whole software team, and their background is actually not really in the industry itself. They were all working for basically high volume websites. So, some of the people on the team were in charge of, all the airline bookings at Orbitz. We had one of our software engineers who came from a high frequency trading company. And so we have a really unique
Techie. Yeah.
yeah, we have a
Very
really
techie.
unique background on the website space. So we're all cloud-based, right? So everything is built on the web, and we're able to build that and scale it very quickly. And then on the other side, we've got my background where I've come from, where it's all been truck and hardware design. We've got, one of the engineers from McNeilus that designed one of the most advanced control systems in the industry. And he's working, he's on a team working with us. So we have a really deep knowledge of the truck and understanding what's going on the electronic side of the truck itself. And you can take those two teams and marry them together, and you get a very unique, just a very unique product. So, talking about technology, everybody always hears cloud. They always hear, oh, we're on the cloud, or, there's a lot of technology that's out there that's still on, on-prem or a server on your site. But what's really unique with building basically this massive website on the cloud is we have the ability to make rapid changes, process things, really dial in what we're doing, all remote. So, you mentioned our downtown office earlier. We haven't been spending as much time there with everything going on.
Yeah.
But what's unique about that is we peeled out of the office basically, right? We still go in there occasionally for certain things, but it didn't impact our ability to make updates to our software at all, because everything's on the cloud, right? Customers call in, they have something that's going on. Maybe something doesn't work quite like they want to, our status needs to be tweaked or whatever it is. Even in a pandemic, we've probably been cranking out more features, more fixes, more updates than we ever have. And so I think it's important for everybody in this industry to know and understand, what that flexibility of having a cloud-based service does for your operation. So we didn't skip a beat. We didn't have any issues. Even, if there ever was an issue, we can fix it remotely. We don't have to be there on site. We don't have to do, a big update on the server or anything like that.
So that, the cloud is, it seems that the cloud is that ambiguous term, right?
Yeah.
In our industry that everybody likes to use. But being that you are, and I've seen your platform, it's pretty impressive, the HTML portion of that, there's a lot of power in where we're going technically as an industry. And so it's good to see companies that are embracing that, and to even bring up the fact that you have guys that basically built some of the most powerful websites in the industry behind that, is where we need to go as an industry. So we obviously here at the podcast would encourage that across the board. But when you have a product that's you have to have a server on site. Anytime that you're in that environment, there's limitations.
Yeah.
And I know that speaking to the ability that you have to push those updates out, to get things fixed fast, it's very needed in our industry, because our customers, right, when they have a problem, they're like, I need this fixed now.
Yeah.
They don't call us. They don't call us until they need it fixed. But when they need it fixed, they need it fixed now. So we get that. And so the cloud is so helpful in that respect. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
And it's, I always, I tell everybody who hasn't, especially in ReadyMix, I always tell everybody in ReadyMix. So, you've got 90 minutes and then you have a 40,000 pound paperweight on the back of the truck, right? So, and these trucks idle, I think the NRMCA average, if I remember right, last year was like $1.21 or $1.25, something in that range a minute, right? So every minute matters in this industry, right? If you're sitting there idling and you're, not going anywhere, you're not doing anything, your system's down for whatever reason, that's just wasted money, right? And so we have to be able to respond fast and quickly. And I mean, that's, it's always hard to describe to producers sometimes, what are the benefits of the cloud, just besides that you don't have to have a server on your site, but being able to make those rapid changes, being able to scale your operation up and down. You bring a new plant online, no problem. It's just scaling up the cloud, right? You're not needing a bigger server. So there's a lot of different things that people don't always realize. And I think, yeah, it's the buzzword, right? Oh, the cloud. We're on the cloud, right? And you got to take, there's a lot of, you got to do a lot of things to educate people and understand what are the real actual benefits for you being on there.
And what is a real cloud technology, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
the impacts of that.
Yeah.
They are so, everything that you're talking about, they're so significant. So I have those conversations all the time, and they're exciting because we're kind of in an education phase in the industry. Like you said, it's a buzzword. Everybody knows what it is from a buzzword perspective, but the business application is substantial. And it's fun. It's fun to be in that aspect of our industry right now. So, okay, so you mentioned earlier that you're a truck-based system. You guys have a lot of truck-based expertise, obviously. What's changing in that side of the industry? Ready mix, aggregate, could be anything. I'm kind of interested in talking about that and understanding where you guys go and what do you see as the future as far as the marriage of the truck and the telematics?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot going on, right? And I mean, if you look at the high level world, there's things like, self-driving cars and automation and stuff, right? Like that, right? Probably a few years out from that as far as being like really applicable to the industry itself. But what you're seeing, with a lot of the technology on the truck is, everybody has CAN-based systems now, right? So you're able to share data, get data off the truck, know exactly what the truck is doing, and just have a better understanding of the truck itself. On the ready mix side, there's a lot of body manufacturers now, that are building their own CAN-based systems. And just for maybe people who aren't aware what a CAN-based system is.
Yeah, please.
Think of it, I should probably explain that. Think of a network on your truck where, all your different components on your vehicle or your truck itself are communicating to each other. So the easiest explanation I have would be like on your computer, you connect to your printer with a network, right? You have a router, you have other components that connect via USB, or other, whether it's the Ethernet or whatever. It's a similar concept in trucks. So you have data flowing between components, and they're a lot of times commanding the component what to do. So the body manufacturers are now producing CAN-based controls. The OEMs on the chassis side, they've been doing it for years, right? And so what you're seeing is a lot more companies like us or, some of the other people out in the space are starting to take advantage of that data. To start reporting on it is something that people have been doing for a long time. Just getting more information and basically putting that in front of our customers' faces and saying, hey, check this out. You've got, name either the issue or whatever's going on. But I think what we're really working on, and I think what you're really starting to see to push the industry forward is automation. So a lot of the OEMs are doing that right now where they're doing certain features, that are automated, right? It could be like you go up a grade on a hill and it automatically starts spinning your drum faster, right? There's automation like that exists out there. What we're
that exists in the truck now.
Today, yeah. What we're trying to do, what we are doing is we are marrying that truck technology with basically a direct line to your operation, right? So there's data flowing back and forth between the two systems. So we're getting information from the truck, we're processing that information of what's going on, and then we're doing things like, status updates and different things like that. But that's been seen in the industry, but where it's certainly different now is taking that live data stream and then making decisions for the truck itself. It's basically automating the body portions, automating the mixer portions, the dump portions on an aggregate truck, and taking that and really automating that entire process.
I'm kind of going back to the beginning of the conversation here where you were talking about, the autonomous vehicle, right? And that's what you're talking about. You're talking about taking all of these automated components on a truck and then doing things with them that just, they can be done, but they can't be done in an environment where a telematics system is actually able to do something with it, right?
Yep.
So, now that begs another question. So everybody out there is concerned about their proprietary, sauce, if you will.
Mhm.
I make my hot sauce. People love my salsa. They do. And I just made some over Labor Day weekend, and it
I
was
gotta
all
get
the
some of
rage.
that.
It's good. I'll make it for you. It's awesome. But I'm not going to tell anybody how I make it. It's pretty darn good, and it's quite a process. But I get that. But as we move the technology forward, as we get into the cloud, and we got all this data floating around, um, the ability for us to do something with that data and make it meaningful, I think that's the big challenge.
Mhm.
Why is it that way, Chris? Why can't we figure something out that allows everyone to move the data in a way? Like, for instance, I was thinking about what you were saying. We've
Yeah,
been capturing all this data from the truck for a long time.
yeah,
Engine data, for
yep.
instance, truck, the service codes, the things like that. But I'm amazed at the amount of ready mix and aggregate producers that have this level of technology in the truck, but
Mhm.
they can't integrate it to their maintenance programs.
Yeah.
And whatever they're using, even though the maintenance program might have the ability to do so, it seems like you need a PhD to
Yeah.
get it done. Maybe
No,
two PhDs.
yeah, for sure. It's interesting. There's definitely some business, I'll say older thinking and business philosophies, right? And that I got to keep everything secret and I got to hold everything close to my vest, which, you do, right? Like you have proprietary ways you go, Tac Insight, I'm sure has ways that they do things better that they're not going to share with anybody, right? But as far as your customer data goes, I think, one thing first, you have to have the technology. So if you have old technology with on-prem servers or whatever it is, right, it's really hard to get that data. You have to either have, software that gets on the server that you pull it out, or you got to get access to it through whatever way. And that's one thing I was going to mention about like just having everything on the cloud. You can get access to the data through an API. So you don't necessarily have to go and create this new specialized software or do anything unique to really pull any of that information out, right? We can generate an API which has a very safe key and you get only access to your data, right? So I think there's several things that have been preventing that, right? It's just companies holding things close to their vest. Two, they don't necessarily have the technology to make that smooth and easy to get to. And I mean, those are probably the two biggest things. And then I don't think everybody always realizes that it's not overly difficult if you have that right technology, right? So you're right. It seems like you have to have this big PhD and you got to go through and do all this complicated stuff. But with what we have going today in technology, you really don't.
I mean, think about it. It's like you've got, okay, I need an oil change at this many thousands of miles.
Yep.
And here's the demarcation line, and I just need that to flow over here and notify my maintenance department that this needs to happen. So just make that work.
Yeah.
In my mind, and it doesn't seem that difficult, but it certainly is.
Well, and I think, at least the approach we've taken too is like, if we have a shortcoming, right? And we can't design everything for everybody, just like you. So it's like, if we have a shortcoming and we can help our customer out because they need some of the data that we already have,
Sure.
great. We'll gladly integrate. You pull your data out, put it into your example, put it in the maintenance software because we're getting odometer and engine hours and different things like that and put it in there. So, yeah, it's certainly not a difficult thing to do. And I kind of think the same way. It's if we have a shortcoming, we'll gladly work with somebody else. That way our customer gets the best experience and gets to, get the data that they really need and truly take advantage of what they have in their operation.
This is kind of an off subject, but do you think it's possible to compete in this industry and create an environment where the data is free for all? Because I see with what we're doing that that's exactly how we operate. We have the perspective that if you're using our system,
Mm-hmm.
that data, whether it's in the cloud or not, is open to you. We have a full set of REST APIs that literally you could take any piece of data out of your system and send it anywhere you want. And we have professional services that can work with you to, help you accomplish what you want to accomplish. But I would love to see that philosophy and that mentality kind of perpetuate itself more in our industry, because I think that's where the customers are suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And the more data we get out there in the field, it seems the less we are willing to move that data around freely.
Sure.
But it would be super powerful to do so.
Yeah. No,
And I'm sorry, if I could just say one more thing. I think it would also breed more innovation in the industry.
Yeah, I completely agree. So to answer your first question, at least my opinion, absolutely a company can survive and compete on that. In fact, I think they'll have to, right? So if you look at any...
Well, I don't know how close we are to that, but gosh, it seems a long way off.
It does. It feels like that, right? But I think what you're seeing right now, especially in our industry, is you're seeing a lot more companies with that mentality come up, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing a lot more companies basically that have that exact same philosophy and want to do the same thing. And
fair enough. Yeah.
Right. Like we may at some point have a competing product, but if your product is better for a customer and we can integrate the data into it, and it gives the customer a better experience, why not? Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're seeing that philosophy. You already see it in other fields, right? Whether it's, you go to some of the bigger, name any big company out there, a Salesforce, Apple, Google, right? Like they all are integrated into each other, and you can pull data from a competing platform, put it into the other one, right? Like that's just the way the world is going. And I think it's just going to take people to, support that, have companies that are out there that have that philosophy, that are making products that make sense. And then as I think more customers get on with companies with that mindset, they're going to realize that overall it's just a better experience, because you may be doing something really, really awesome on the ag side with scales and different things like that, and we may not be able to do it. Or if we have it, it's not our main focus. So if you pull some of the information out of our trucks and put it into your system and it's automated, it's best for everybody. And overall, it's the best experience, right?
Knowledge is power, and data is knowledge. And absolutely. So when we hold that data hostage, or, disallow the movement of it, we're disallowing further power and knowledge in our industry. So yeah, I kind of that's the way I think, and I want to see that perpetuate itself. So it's good that you guys are taking that route, and kudos to you for doing that. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about safety. So we're talking about telematics. Mm-hmm. How is telematics impacting safety? And here's one thing, when I was working in the industry, I'd get a lot. Hey, why can't you just put a sensor on the tires so I can know that they're inflated properly? And you're like, well, the sensors are out there, yeah, I mean, why not? I don't know. Things like that. Where is safety going with telematics, and where is it right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? Like safety, especially during the pandemic, right, is everybody's top of mind, right? It's all about being safe, and and especially in trucking too. I mean, you've got a big vehicle going down the road that has 40,000 pounds of concrete in it, or whatever you're hauling, right? Going down the road at 65 miles per hour. So, I mean, telematics today, I would say more than anything from a safety perspective, is really highlighting safety issues, right? Whether it's a stability issue, or like in your case, in the tire pressure monitoring, with our TPMS sensors, if a tire is not inflated properly, we can grab that data and broadcast it to somebody.
Are you doing that?
Yeah, so we do have the ability to tap into external systems. I'm kind of going back to sharing data and integration, not to change topics on you.
No, it's good.
One thing with the platform, not only like on the cloud, having the ability to integrate with other people through APIs, we can actually integrate with other companies through a CAN bus. And so that's that network I talked about on the truck.
Yes.
So things like, when you get that "why don't you" question,
is that being broadcast to the CAN bus, the tire pressures and things like that now? In some, Yeah.
Yeah. So certain companies, have it standard on their new models. Some
Okay.
companies have it as a third party that gets attached on to the tire itself.
But it's
Um,
still broadcast through the can?
yes. Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, there's other systems out there, right? That their own system, their own telematics that can broadcast that, but it also broadcasts on the bus itself.
I see.
And so you can get that information and broadcast it. So when the nice thing about having these agile platforms is that when somebody asks you, well, wouldn't it be great if you could do this? Your question, right? Why can't you do this, right? Like the answer is we can, right? Like we can actually do that. We can take that data, we can put it into our platform, and we can broadcast it out, And so that's the beauty of having these flexible systems where you're sharing data. So going back to the safety side, I think right now more than anything, companies are really focused, especially telematics companies are really focused on just showing you the safety issues, right? Like your tire pressure is low, your driver was driving erratically, some just more.
Rollover is a big thing for ready mix, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So like if you're getting into rollover conditions, here's when the truck said that you're getting into a rollover condition, we can
Earmark that.
earmark it, right? Driver scorecards, driver monitoring, even outside the vehicle monitoring is a big thing, right? So you have other systems, camera systems, you have sensor systems that can detect if something is getting too close, right? So there's a lot of different systems out there on telematics that do things like that. And I would call those just more or less they're, showing you what the problems are. The future, and I think where everybody's going to start going, is actually preventing those problems, right? So like not allowing your vehicles to get into those unsafe conditions. And though that type of thinking and product does exist today. There's companies out there that build, washout systems for a mixer where you don't have to have a ladder, right? So you don't have to go up on the ladder.
Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I know that Beck has one, right?
Yeah, I think pretty much every major OEM now at this point in the ready mix side has their own version.
Kind of the okay.
Yeah, Beck was certainly the first one. So,
it's been a while since I've been out there, but I remember being down in San Antonio and seeing their product. But yeah,
absolutely,
it's pretty nice, to get that keep people off the back of the truck.
For sure. And I mean, you think about it, it's a dangerous environment back there, right? Like you've got to climb up a ladder, which is always a challenge, and there's a drum and everything else going on, right? So, you're seeing a lot of systems on the OEMs that just help prevent some of the accidents. And I think what we're working on going forward is how do we prevent that using the data we have? So how do you make that component, that system smarter to know where it is? Because there, especially in ready mix and ag, there's conditions where you need to do things like fold your chute down, right, to pour concrete. But if you're driving down the road, you don't want your chute to fold down. So if we can combine data of the telematics system of knowing what we're doing, where we are, what the load is, you're ticketed, right, and combine that with that same thought process and those components on trucks, the future is really preventing that. I'll say smart prevention, right? Like what's going on because of your surroundings, you can actually prevent those safety issues from happening. And I see that's really where the future is and where, we're going to try to take our platform.
Nice. What about the technology that you're utilizing? Do you find is the technology, so like if I recall, we always would have a unit that we would sell that would go in the truck, and I'm sure that unit is getting more condensed, probably more form factor, if you will. And depending on how it's, evolving in the industry, do you see do you see the truck becoming the telematics unit over time, and then maybe you becoming more of the software telematics? Or is that ever going to merge itself together? Because we've been talking about all these different components plugging into the brain of the truck. Yep. I mean, is a telematics going to be in the truck one day, Chris? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely see telematics in trucks now, right? Like I think all the
shipping with that tech.
Yeah, so you have like, I know Mac has their own, PACCAR has their own, right? Like I think or all those guys have their own. I S series and Oshkosh came out with their own telematics platform, right? So there's definitely a push to get more of that on the truck, and it makes sense for it to be on the truck, quite frankly, right? Because it's basically, you can route everything through it, right? Like everything is there on the truck, so it certainly makes sense to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I see, for us, we have it's a pretty small, we'll call it a black box, but we call it our sensor base. That goes onto the truck itself. Fundamentally, what we do different that I think enables our platform to be a little more flexible is that we don't have a data connection on that black box, right? So we pipe all of the data out to a tablet, and the tablet then broadcasts it to the cloud, and we process everything on the cloud. So as far as like future updates and different things like that, since we're doing everything on the cloud and not the truck itself, we can make changes to algorithms, begin, pour, end, pour logic, right? Like if you're on a dump truck, dumping or not dumping logic, we can make those tweaks on the back end without touching the truck. So, coming from an OEM, I used to always say it's just the truck especially the body manufacturers, right? The body manufacturers really need to house that. But the challenge I think body manufacturers are going to have are the telematics in our industry are pretty advanced, or I should say pretty deep into customers' operations, right? As you know. And so we're, sending directions, ticket information, mix information. And so I think the telematics guys, whether that's us or somebody else, I think we're always kind of going to be the center of that, because we're really the connection between the driver, the truck, what's going on in the job site, right? And basically the whole entire back end, the plant, the batch panels, everything, right? And so I really see us as probably being the main focal point of all that information. And again, we'll take information from other telematics providers. And that's the beauty of having a flexible platform, right? So if we can integrate something from the OEMs.
That sounds interesting. Like what if 10 years from now, just every truck is shipping with this, telematics functionality, and then but they don't understand ready mix and aggregate delivery cycle, and they don't know software integrations. That's not their forte. So I mean, could it literally morph into, okay, that's all on the truck now, but we have the most powerful software for that? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, right? So it all depends on kind of what those companies want to do. So you're right. They're really good at building trucks, right? Like that's kind of where they stand. It's a big manufacturing operation. And they certainly could say that everyone going forward is going to have this. The challenge you have, and I forget the numbers, I'm probably a little bit wrong here, but there's 70,000 mixers out in the industry, something like that. And you've got a lot of mixers that need this technology, right? And need to be retrofitted on it before, if you start today,
maybe
building
50 years from.
Yeah, we're talking 10, 15 years before all those are replaced, right? Yeah. So I think that's the direction that, I do think that more and more manufacturers, and I think they all have some form of they all have a form of a platform that exists. And I just think it's going to get more advanced. But at the end of the day, it's all about integrating, having the open platform, being able to pick and select what makes the most sense for you. I might get this directly from one of the OEMs. It's good for what I need. I'm good. Or you know what, I need something a little more advanced as far as like what you were saying, the statusing, knowing the delivery cycles, dealing with employee PIN numbers, dealing with driver scheduling, dealing with all the aspects that go around a ready mix operation that aren't truck based. They might end up going with someone like us or somebody else, right? So I think there's always going to be a balance, right? I don't think it's going to be all on the OEMs, and I don't think it's going to all be on just the telematics guys.
So real quick, before we wrap things up here, can you talk about a little bit of the cool tech that you guys are working on for your side of the business, and what direction are you going in?
Yeah, so our whole mindset more than anything is really looking at a ready mix operation and saying, how can we optimize this for our customers? How can we, I talked about the $1.20, $1.25 a minute, depending on where you are. If you're out in maybe a state like California, it's more.
It's not cheap.
No, not at all. So really optimizing that entire operation, right? How do we make it better, leaner, meaner, stronger, more accurate? So, we're developing technology on the software side to, help make it more accurate, get things more dialed in, basically streamline your operation. And on the truck side, we're really designing technology to eliminate any waste, any variability that you see in the operation. It's not a question of how do we broadcast and tell you that this driver had a problem. It's how do we prevent the driver from having a problem, right?
It's a proactive approach. Okay.
Exactly. And I mean, same thing with, it's not just drivers, it's everybody, right? It could be dispatchers, it could be everybody else.
It could be salespeople.
Yeah, we're the root of all problems, right?
That's right.
And so it's really, trying to understand the technology, what a customer needs, and then how do we make them more efficient? So, for us, more sensors, more controls, establishing the link between our hardware platform that goes on the truck and the cloud and the back end, and making sure that that technology is in sync, and knowing where, we know where the truck's at. Well, since we know where the truck's at, what do we do with the control system, right? And at the end of the day, keeping in mind that this is a very harsh environment. Concrete is not kind to electronics. Driving down the road with a big loaded truck is also not kind to electronics. So keeping that in mind, that we have to have a very robust product that can't fail. And if it does fail, at the end of the day, you have to be able to get your concrete off the truck, right?
Right. Yep.
And same thing with, you got to be able to dump your load if you're on the aggregate side. So, like I said, we're really focused on sensors, getting deep into the truck, taking things like tire pressure monitors, integrating that into our back end, trying to eliminate the amount of screens in a truck, the amount of data connections. You've been in plenty of ready mix trucks. Sometimes it looks like the back of like the ESPN set, right? You've got all these different monitors. We had one customer who had 4 monitors in their truck, right? And at the end of the day, the driver's still got to drive. He's still got to deliver concrete. So how can we consolidate that down? How can we take that technology, pipe it into one space, so that you don't have
absolutely
data connections, right? You don't have 4 different screens to look at.
That goes back to the previous conversation, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because telematics is central and key to the production and efficiency of the operation, right? So I need to send him canned messages. He needs to have an interface for his digital vehicle inspection report. It's a tablet. But if we're running all these other things, what we have to get there where all this is living in one environment, because there's safety concerns there too.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So, we're taking it, you talk about vehicle inspection reports, talk about ticketing, right? So the big buzzword right now.
The ticket, yeah.
Ticket, that's a big thing right now, obviously, with COVID. It's not just, for our mindset is it's not just replacing paper. When you replace paper
I agree.
in a process like DVIR and e-ticketing, you're just replacing an older process. How do we think about that? How do we think about what a ticket truly is, right? How do we think about what is a vehicle inspection report? And how do we make it better, right? Not just replace it, not just put it on a tablet, not just have it so you can take the tablet out and sign on glass. Let's really talk and really think about what can we do with technology to replace that whole process.
Do you know how long we've been talking about taking the tablet out of the truck and signing on glass? Yeah. It has been forever. Even still today, we all know that that's really not that feasible, because you got to unplug the USB, you got to plug it back in. We have all these contraptions like, the lock boxes and stuff, but still most of those are just glass tablets now. They don't have a protection on them. So, what we're doing is we're actually able to, we have apps that the customer or the DOT agent or the foreman can have on his phone, where those tickets can flow to him. So we got to start thinking outside the box. It can't be up to the driver. We think it's so easy. I can't tell you how many times Clay, how the UPS guys just show up at my door and pull this out. I'm like, it would be great, but getting there is the problem. But I think we've got the idea: open databases, open platforms where multi technological systems can coexist for safety's sake, for productivity's sake, and then sharing that data and getting that data out there into the customer's hands so that maybe there isn't a touch, right? There's just, I've delivered your concrete. He signed it. I get a confirmation in the truck, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, how do you think about this differently? The beautiful thing is everybody has, you know, internet access with, you know, a cellular device now. And so how can we do things different? It's a different world, and it's really fun to be talking about solving some of these problems from a different perspective, right? Why
That's
do you need,
actually my favorite word, Chris, is different.
yeah,
I like different.
I agree. I'm the same way. And so, like, why even have the signature, right? Like, so
Yeah.
there's just, there's a lot of new and exciting things that we can do, and this technology is enabling it, right? So it's really thinking through, like, what can we do that's different, utilizing technology, and at the end of the day, it's just making everybody more efficient and better.
Well, this has been awesome. I am so grateful that you came on the show, and it's great to talk to you and brainstorm. And I'm looking forward to talking to you more, you know, offline and getting to know Digital Fleet more. I really appreciate you guys. And like I said in the beginning, I think that you guys are very impressive. And thanks for sharing your knowledge with us today, Chris. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Clay. This is awesome. I could talk for a long time, so you
Well,
probably have to cut me off at some point.
well, and I know that you have a lot of work that you're doing this weekend even. So thanks for taking your time to, you know, talk to our audience, and let's plan on having you back and doing this again sometime.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Okay, Chris, be safe out there. I'll talk to you soon. And thanks everyone for tuning in to the Scale House podcast, where we talk about technology in the construction materials industry. You guys be safe and take care.